Welcome on inside yet another edition of the Business of Social podcast powered by the GOAT STN Digital. I'm your host, David Brickley. Each and every show, we talk about marketing, social, the digital landscape. We interview the experts. We talk about the big stories. And of course, could not do it without producers Dave Furker and of course, producer Will. Producer Will, how you doing on this fine episode?
Doing great. Got a good episode scheduled today with Lindsey from Skyrocket.
Lindsey from Skyrocket. I do want to shout out a few people, Will. I've had some great conversations with some colleagues and friends in the space this week. Katie Daly of ESPN, Connor Smith of Topgolf, the great Sai Furtani from Fox Sports, all of them giving us props on the podcast, asking us where the new episode is. They want more. I mean, we now are at a spot now where people are expecting some fresh content on a weekly basis. So I hope you have the guest all ready to roll here, Will, because we can't go 2 weeks without a pod.
Yeah, if we have any guests out there and you want to refer anyone, send them over to me. We'll definitely get them on the show. But a lot of good feedback recently.
And
so
we hope if you give us shout outs in person or over the phone, that's so nice and kind of you. But maybe, I don't know, maybe throw a 5-star on there on iTunes. That might be appreciated. But no, we got what are we at? Episode 54. We are growing show by show here. So 54,
52,
as you guys
52.
always know, we break down the famous athletes in sports that wore that number and called that podcast by the person we nominate. So who are my 54s? I'm drawing a blank here.
I don't have any.
Brian Urlacher's at 54, right?
We're on 52. 52.
Oh, it's 52?
Yeah.
Episode 52. Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Episode 52 of the Business of Social podcast.
All right.
Pardon me. Keep all that in. Don't edit that out. This is live.
I got 4 for you. Let me know if you can find out who the clear favorite is. Mike Webster, Jamal Wilkes, Dave Edwards, and Ray Lewis.
Jamal Wilkes. All right, guys, this is the Ray Lewis podcast right here on the Business of Social. That was an easy one, Will. That's a layup, if you will. So I'm really looking forward to 54th, though, Will. As you know, I was really hyped up for that. So 2 more episodes.
Yeah, going to have to get a big list for 54.
All right, Lindsey Scheftic. She is she runs up marketing over at Skyrocket. Really excited to talk to her, vice president of marketing at Skyrocket. Skyrocket is an award-winning creator, developer, manufacturer. They do stuff like VR, drones, robots, specialize in kid toys, and they're really going after that 3 to 8 year old demo. Obviously, when you go after that demo, when it comes to targeting, you need to go after the moms and the grandparents and the purchasers. And I think a lot of my clients, a lot of people on this pod will have talked about wanting to get younger, right? We talked to Snapchat. We talked to the NFL about how they want to get younger. And I don't think anybody can speak to that more than Lindsey when it comes to how do you target this, not only Gen Z, but getting younger than that at 3 to 8 years old. What is working right now in the space on social, on digital, on traditional, when it comes to targeting young folks and how to get toys or different products in their hands? So I don't know about you, Producer Will, but I'm excited to dive into a very different strategy than what we're used to here on the Business of Social.
Yeah, I think it's one thing any marketer is always looking for the answer to is how do I get in front of a younger demo of that and their parents who purchased for them. So I think she's going to have a lot of good answers and strategies.
She was previously at a social media agency of record, Edelman. She worked at Vans and then at OMD, working with brands like Apple, Red Bull, Vans, Toyota. So I want to not only dig into her with Skyrocket and what they're doing, targeting the younger demo, but also just overall marketing, because she's really worked with a lot of large brands and, what she's learned throughout the years and what's worked, what doesn't, and what brands, what mistakes she sees brands making. So I'm really excited for this one, episode 52. Don't get it twisted. Lindsey Scheftic, the vice president of marketing at Skyrocket. All right, team. She is the vice president of marketing at Skyrocket. Lindsey Scheftic joins us on the Business of Social. Lindsey, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I always kick things off with a random question. I know you've worked at a lot of brands like Vans and Skyrocket, but you've also been on my side, the client services side. What's the most annoying piece of feedback you've ever got on the client service side?
On client service side? So many annoying pieces of feedback. And I probably give a lot of annoying pieces of feedback now.
You're self-aware, though. That's good.
Very self-aware. It's the typical, make the logo bigger. That kind of stuff.
How much bigger? Yeah.
The little stuff. Yeah, how much bigger? A lot bigger.
That's hilarious. So, all right. So we've kind of talked about what you do. Skyrocket, you can give me a breakdown, but you guys focus on VR and drones and robots. And obviously you're focusing on the kids, like 3 to 8 year old range. But you guys do a lot of cool things. Can you walk the audience quickly through just what you oversee day to day and what Skyrocket's all about?
Sure. So I oversee all of marketing at Skyrocket. It's everything from selling into retailers and how we position our products, and working on the product development side to figure out, what type of products we put in the marketplace. And then on the back end of that, it's creating content for consumers and experiences for how we connect with kids in that 3 to 8 zone, their parents, their grandparents. It's a really interesting time to be in toys right now, and there's so many laws and regulations that are changing in the kids space. So you kind of really have to be on your toes a lot and know, you kind of have to read the tea leaves of what's coming next. So it's a really fun space to play in.
Yeah. And then you've worked throughout your career so far, you've worked on brands like Apple, Red Bull, Vans, Toyota, et cetera. So I want to get your thoughts on the overall marketing industry, but digging in first to what your current role at Skyrocket. You've mentioned, targeting 3 to 8 year olds, which, as we know on social, you're not allowed to target 3 to 8 year olds and what they're doing. So how have you guys found ways? I mean, obviously you want to target the parents and the people that are actually going out there and purchasing, but how have you found ways to get in front of that younger demographic in, like you said, the right way or the legal way, if that makes sense?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that, so I'm pretty recent to the toy space. I've been in the toy space for just about a year now. And, there's a lot of challenges when it comes to targeting kids, and a lot of, ways that you want to be legal compliant and brand safe, and, all those things you talk about when you're targeting older people, but it's definitely more sensitive when you're targeting kids. So it's been interesting, because I would say, like, maybe even 3 to 5 years ago, it was pretty formulaic. You bought your kids network TV, you did some YouTube, and you're done. You've reached the kids, they bug their parents, and then the parents buy the product. Well, it was really before, like, parents had research at their fingertips. So now parents are making more and more purchase decisions in terms of toys than they ever have in the past, where parents used to find out about toys from their kids. So you kind of have to influence both the parent and the child now, where it was just the child before. But as parents are, cutting the cord on cable, and kids are making a transformation into the digital space, and, TV isn't just TV. It's not Nickelodeon. It's not Disney. TV to kids is YouTube, because they're watching it on the big screen. It's, all these kids networks are starting to pop up, like Pop Jam, and some of these other places. It's anywhere really where kids are consuming content. So, I would say the main part where we've had to shift is, and especially in the last year, is shifting a lot of dollars out of the TV space and going more exclusively on YouTube and more exclusively with influencers and creating content. And that's become a really, really important part of our strategy.
What specifically on YouTube has worked for you? Because we know that there's a lot of kids channels that focus on content that 3 to 8 year olds love. And I know my little cousins and people in my family are just like, they're searching on YouTube and they have their followers. And you have unboxing, which is really huge in this space, especially with younger people. But what have you found to be successful to hit that younger demo?
Yeah, I think, the unboxing channels are great. We partner a lot with the influencers that do the toy unboxing, because that's where the eyeball's at. That's where the audience is. A lot of our products right now are girls products. So we have a big brand called Bloom that we launched last year, which is, it's a really cool flower pot that when you sprinkle water on top, a doll grows out of it, and it's a collectible doll. So we try to go after, some of the toy unboxers. We're really interested in kind of like that DIY kid as well. We love trying to come up with ideas on how we can make more creative. So we sent out these mailers to influencers and asked them to like for Halloween, we sent out our product, and we asked them to, rethink our product and bring a Halloween twist to it. So we sent out like lots of art supplies and spray paint and things that they could do to add some creativity to just the toy itself. So, you know, we're trying to look for different avenues to reach those right influencers and hit the right audience. You know, we're not like a Mattel or Hasbro. We're a pretty mid-sized to small company. So we have to be really, really smart with the dollars that we use. And so we don't want like any kind of waste with like a boy eyeball. We want to make sure that we hit that right audience. And, you know, YouTube hasn't done a great job of setting up targeting because there are a lot of kid safe parameters, and YouTube Kids has been so, you know, is very pricey. So, you know, we kind of make our own targets in YouTube, and that has been working pretty well for us.
And this is getting super granular, but I'm assuming with most parents, they start a YouTube account and that kid then watches the YouTube content on their parents' YouTube account. So are there ways to know if that, I mean, are you essentially guessing through kind of like just through research on if this, you know, 28-year-old, 34-year-old woman has a YouTube account, there's probably a high likelihood they have kids, so let's try this out? Or is there actually more segmented advertising or demo you can get into?
So there's a couple of different ways. We really try to reach the kid through contextual and through keyword and through targeting off of some of these influencers that we know that kids are watching. It's a very manual process. YouTube just launched these channel packs that you can buy for kids on the main YouTube, but we haven't seen great success with it, and it's still like a mix of many different things. So you can't get to like exactly who you want to talk to. Yeah. You don't even look at the parent. We don't even look at the demo. We actually just look primarily at, you know, at keywords and looking at the right type of content.
And then how are you, I guess, backing up a second, like how are you dictating what keywords the 3 to 8 year olds are searching for in order to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just thinking about how you're working backwards in order to reverse engineer, like finding that kid.
It's kind of like hottest toys, or we look at some of our main competitors that we know, you know, that are sitting in the right set. It's a lot of testing. I mean, we have like thousands of keywords, and then after 3 days, we cull it down, and then we cull it down, and we cull it down. So, like I said, it's a very, very manual process. I'm not sure anybody's maybe taking that fine tooth of a comb, but we kind of have to with the limited budget
for sure
that we have. That's been really interesting. And yeah, I think that, and it's also different depending on what products you do. If you have boys products, we're going to be looking at totally different set of keywords. We have a product that we're launching later this year called Chocolate Pen, which is a pen that writes in chocolate. And that we're going to target like a lot of like DIY moms and kids that bake. And, you know, it's kind of the same, but a little bit different.
I remember the Easy Bake Oven I would play with my sister, and that light bulb took a long time to cook that brownie. So hopefully it's a little faster. Well, it's
definitely faster.
Yeah,
definitely faster.
You mentioned what's interesting about what you do is you're targeting the 3 to 8 year old. You're obviously targeting the parent because they're the ones that have the credit card and going to actually buy it. But you're also targeting the grandparent for birthdays and Christmas and things like that. So what have you seen the most success with? Does it vary product to product? And are you targeting all three of those subsets pretty much every time you're marketing towards a toy?
You know, it's seasonal. So I would say when we're trying to launch a product and create awareness, we're definitely targeting that kid first. And maybe we layer on some mom Facebook or Instagram or social advertising. We try to do some mom Instagram influencer campaigns. We've seen a lot of success with that. We try to do some social campaigns for moms where you have other moms going in a store and taking a photo with product on shelf so that, you know, when they go into the store, they can recognize what it looks like. And then I would say the grandparent targeting has been really successful for us.
I'm guessing it's mostly Facebook for you guys?
Yes. Yes.
Not the stereotype.
That's for grandma and grandpa. I know that's where my grandparents are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I would say that works pretty well, and seasonally it does very well.
That's awesome. So,
especially holidays and when grandparents are in that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess, and this can be super ballpark terms, but since you guys aren't a Hasbro or a Mattel, When it comes to your marketing budget and where you choose to put your money, what would you say it's separate right now? Is it majority influencer YouTube? Is there any traditional sprinkle in there? Like, how's it kind of break down for you guys? I think it's super interesting. We just had my last podcast guest talk about where marketing is going, but each individual product or brand, they need to focus on a different strategy based on who their demographic is. But I'm excited to kind of hear from you how you guys spread out your budget.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, it's actively changing. Like every month, we're looking at that adjustment. Last year, we definitely pulled more out of TV and more into YouTube. We tested some OTT. We tested, you know, a lot of different kids platforms. But at the end of the day, YouTube is and it works pretty well. So it's hard not to kind of cover your bases there before you go anywhere else. That was last year. This year, we just launched a spring product called Bloom Baby Pop, and we didn't spend any traditional dollars. We spent all influencer dollars and digital on YouTube primarily. So influencer, I think, we'll see kind of overtaking a lot of our budgets this year. And, you know, we're going to keep trying to experiment and do new things because that old model and that old template that used to work and the playbook just isn't working anymore.
And, you know, a lot of influencers screamed to the heavens when Instagram took away likes because they thought that would affect their business. Let me ask you, from someone that's on the other side that's heavily involved in influencer marketing, has that affected anything? As long as you can get the back end data from the influencer, you're all good? Or has that affected any way to A, find the people, or B, track the data of how the performance is?
It affects it in some way because you want to see how engaged people are. I think that's like a good, you know, you can have somebody who can serve a lot of impressions, but their audience might not actually be engaging with the content. So, actually like probably scour through comments like a crazy person all the time on every piece of content that anyone puts out there to kind of gauge, you know, how we're doing or where the interest is. So it has, but it hasn't. We're still going to do it.
Yeah, I don't think I've said this on the podcast, but I'm so frustrated as a data geek. My Instagram, I can't see any likes, but my dog's Instagram can. So I constantly jump back and forth to get my
dog's Instagram. I can see as well.
Are you?
Our dogs should follow
exactly.
each other.
But you can't see likes on your personal Instagram. Is that how it works too?
I can still see likes on mine.
I like literally have friends on Instagram.
I'm not
like,
in the beta.
Please take me out of this subset. It's so annoying. But yeah, that's super interesting. All right, so I want to get back into Skyrocket a little bit later, but I did, like, again, with your extensive experience and working with these larger brands, talk me through, I guess, and I ask this question to a lot of people, and I love to hear the different answers. How do you approach marketing? What's your core belief on how to approach marketing as a whole anytime you get a new role or a new product?
You know, I think for me, it's consumers. That's the first thing that I do. You know, like when I started at Vans, you know, I had been in the action sports space when I worked for Red Bull and just kind of trying to find like what pockets of people are we trying to talk to? Where can we expand the brand? You know, how can we reach the right consumers? How do we get the most efficient, most folks, you know, kind of reach? And when I start a new role, that's kind of the first thing that I always dig into. Like, where's the consumer research? Who are we talking to? What are we missing? You know, a lot of times I think when you kind of come into a new role, someone's been in there a while and they may have missed something because they're really close to it. And I think coming in with, that's kind of what I like about starting a new role, is being able to kind of come in with fresh eyes and say, hey, like, this is great. Like, all the things you're doing are great, but I think that we can supplement this strategy with X, you know? But yeah, for me, it always starts with the consumer.
Amen. And I probably sound like a grumpy old man at this point on this podcast, but I'm just amazed. I'm amazed, and people in marketing roles, that's not their first question. Like, who's our consumer? What demo are you trying to hit? Where does that demo live on? And again, if you're trying to reach 70-year-olds, maybe that's, you know, direct mail. It matters who you're trying to reach. And I think that question isn't asked enough. I think on the agency side as well, I'm sure, you know, I know you worked at Edelman and OMD. I'm always surprised by how often people don't know what success looks like. They want you to run this campaign. They want you to do this experiential activation. But are you looking for app signups? Are you looking for sales? Are you looking for brand awareness, earned media value? Did that happen in your roles too in the past where you were kind of like,
oh yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, what is the goal? And you kind of have to pull it out of the client.
I would say the best company I've worked for in defining what success looks like was Red Bull.
Yeah.
And we were really good at setting our goals, not just short term, but long term, and then like planting the flags and just getting there.
Yep.
And there was always a success metric tied to whatever we did. You know, I think when I came to Vans, it was a little wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Like, well, what are we trying to accomplish? What do you guys, you know, you have a lot of objectives, you have a lot of goals, but what's the priority?
Yep.
What's the hierarchy? So I've definitely experienced a lot of that. You know, working in because I think the only success metric and the only goal is sales.
Yes.
So,
Amen.
you know, you're not always trying to create a brand or build brand awareness because your brand might be gone in 6 months.
Yep.
So, but you can't do the lower funnel advertising without doing the upper funnel advertising. So you're kind of in like, we're in like a tailspin all the time. I'm always trying to be like, well, we actually need to build the awareness and then we can drive sales. We can't just drive sales without building the awareness. So yeah.
I'm interested at your time in Red Bull too, because how did you guys, obviously there's things like brand lift and there's different market research and focus groups, but how did you guys tie in a dope, amazing snowboarder jumping out of a helicopter and, you know, and Mount Everest and just doing an amazing video, and how that translates to David Brickley going into a 7-Eleven and buying a Red Bull? Like how did you guys dictate success there? And how did you guys measure that to make sure that the return on investment was there?
Red Bull is doing influencer marketing way before anybody else, you know, and that's kind of what it was. Then you couldn't measure. I would say that the brand, we were so lucky to be able to kind of do things 50% metric and 50% gut. We took a lot of big bets that paid off, and they do a lot of big things that don't pay off.
Yep.
So I think for them, it's probably a little bit easier than some of the brands that have to show a one-to-one to the value. I mean, you see like some of these brands right now in action sports are dropping out their, you know, surf programs and dropping out their athletes because on paper they don't see the value, but it's all about creating that brand aspiration and awareness and really having things that target aspires to and having people that those kids are looking up to. So, you know, a lot of it is measurable. A lot of it, I think that Red Bull had amazing success. And now, you know, they do have they are able to put a lot of metrics behind what they're doing with social media and how many views they're getting. And for them, creating content and building the media house. I was there when we were building the Red Bull media house. That was a completely separate revenue stream to the can business.
Brilliant.
So for them, it was about pushing can sales, but it was about really building a revenue source, an entertainment property outside of just the can business.
Yeah. And much like what Nike did, like how do you, the ROI of signing Michael Jordan back in 1984, you know, it's tough to show that brand lift or what have you probably in the first few months, but I mean, the rest is history on that. So it makes total sense. And then in terms of marketing as well, like I always like to ask this question. I've asked a lot of folks in your shoes, like how do you explain the difference from sales and marketing? I guess at your current role, how is that relationship? Because I feel like a lot of companies get that wrong and sales and marketing don't talk enough, but they really have to be in sync, I think, for ultimate success.
Oh yeah. I mean, I sometimes feel like I am part of the sales team in this role, especially being at a smaller company. Yeah, we work hand in hand with the sales team. Like I go out to our retailers to talk about our products and how we're going to market and how we're going, you know, everything we do is a third party distribution. So, and wholesale. So we sell our products through Walmart and Target and Amazon. So I should be really plugged into not only what we're doing, but what they're doing and how to create a partnership with the retailers. I oversee the marketing in the US and Canada and the UK and Australia as well. So it's being really plugged into what's happening in the international space as well.
That's awesome. And then I guess what's a common mistake you see marketers making or brands making?
I think that, you know, probably not being narrow enough with who they're talking to. I feel like, especially some of the bigger brands,
trying to be everything to everyone.
Kind of, spraying everybody. And I feel like brands are so scared to be focused. And like it's okay to be focused. And then once you kind of get the people in the focus, then go outside of that and find the next ring of people versus trying to just be, like you said, everything for everybody.
Makes total sense. A common word in our industry, is called that soft touch, and finding ways to stay in front of your core demo without being too salesy, without saying, buy this at Target for $19.99. I'm guessing a lot of that has to do with your influencer marketing, but have you found any other ways to stay in front of your audience in a more organic way, kind of building that community?
So that's something we're working on right now, especially in the kids space. You see a lot of successful ways don't actually start with the toy. They start with like a show or content. Like look at something like a Paw Patrol or, My Little Pony. And so for us, what we're trying to do is really recalibrate what we're doing and trying to create content for entertainment that is also then going to sell like a product on the back end. There's a brand that Moose Toys launched last year called Gujitsu, and they, it's a brand new toy. It's not steeped in any kind of license, and it was a boy's toy. I actually have one on my desk, this guy. Hey. And they created some really cool like animated content that they distributed, and kids I think got really into the animation and the content, and then the toy came out and they're like, oh cool, that's that new cartoon I'm watching. So I think that outside of the influencer marketing, that's kind of the sweet spot, because you can use a content to promote a toy versus the other way around. And that's really how you're going to kind of bring more people in to your franchise. Yeah. And then you remind me of something else too, that we've been talking a lot about on the show is like, as people are going more into streaming, how a Netflix is probably going to find even more ways to, create revenue is product placement. Have you guys had kids in popular television shows play with the different toys? And if so, has that worked for you, or are you guys looking to do more of that in the future? We have not done that yet, but it's something we've definitely looked into. I think that for me, it's a nice to have, just knowing what our budgets are. If I could do this and this and this and this and this, I would. It's definitely something that I would do, but I'd probably put it in a little, I put it on the list instead of the must-have list right now. Got it. One kind of funny example I always bring up is we worked on a TV show called Drop the Mic, and Justin Bieber's wife, formerly known as Hailey Baldwin, Hailey Bieber, her content performed really, really well on Twitter, but not so much on Instagram, which was a weird like A/B test we figured out mid-season. That is weird. And we switched it up because she was so active on Twitter. I bring that up because has there been any fun stories for you when you've A/B tested, whether it's influencers or different platforms, that change your perception or totally allowed you to revert course because of the data you were seeing? Yeah, I mean, we would see, at Vans, but also to Apple, we'd see that all the time. Like, Apple, I can't talk a lot about Apple, but, we see like Twitter actually perform really well for Apple. Yeah. Really, really well. And we did a lot of shifts in real time, and I was surprised. I think, that Apple content's going to do well, across any platform. And Facebook especially, that's kind of what that content's built for, but more people engage with it on Twitter. We sparked more conversations with it on Twitter. It was a really mutually beneficial relationship that we had when I was working at Apple. So, the content we created, I would say for Vans, we tested across a lot of different platforms, and Instagram was like always king for us. That just seems like the right brand on that platform. So I think it kind of, varies depending on what brand you are. Where I'm currently at, I think the best way for us to reach moms now is through Facebook and Instagram. Honestly, we don't really do very much with Twitter. It's, we see a lot of success with the kind of more visual platforms or platforms that, we can kind of reach that very specific audience. And the targeting is obviously like very great to figure out who's a mom and what age kid they have, on Facebook and Instagram.
How have you guys, I mean, Snapchat is inherently a younger platform, not that 3 to 8, but they kind of like, cut their teeth on that 13 to 18-year-old. I think 90% of people, we had a guy from Snapchat come on, I think 90% of 13 to 18-year-olds are touched by Snapchat somehow, some way every single month, which is insane. But I'm wondering if with you guys for Snapchat and then now TikTok, which is an immature platform that doesn't have a lot of ad possibilities other than kind of that main takeover when you open the app. But how have you guys tested Snapchat? Are you looking at TikTok? Kind of what are those things that you're thinking about?
So Snap for our audience is too old. And parents, I don't think, are like letting the younger kids get on Snapchat. But TikTok is actually TikTok platform I've had my eye on for a long time. Even when I was at Vans, which was like now, 3 or 4 years ago, we were in very early conversations with them, but there was like nothing they were doing yet. They're really doing anything now.
At that layer, they're musically, essentially, yeah.
Right, they were musically. Yeah. But we do work with a lot of TikTok influencers. We have started to work to make sure that some of the influencers that we're working with have cross-platform presence. And TikTok is definitely a big part of the strategy. There's a lot of younger kids on the platform, 13 under. It's hard though, because the targeting isn't great in the platform and it's like a free for all still. But we've worked with a couple of influencers and they've used some of our products in their TikToks, and, we see them in like 1 or 2 days getting like 2 or 3 million views. So, I mean, that's amazing for us.
Yeah, the organic reach is incredible. And I think I've heard a lot what you're saying is right now the only play really is influencer marketing. I mean, you could do a 24-hour takeover for $250,000. I mean, that's not really, like I said, the targeting and the opportunities for advertisement isn't really there yet. But as you can tell, there definitely will be there shortly, I'm sure.
Oh,
for revenue.
For sure.
So I'll do some rap.
I like TikTok.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of what they're doing.
Are you making a lot of musical videos?
I personally am not a TikTok influencer. I'm a TikTok viewer.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
The Drake challenge right now is cracking me up. But I'll go rapid fire with you real quick here as we wrap up here. What is the one social or marketing tool that you use daily or weekly that you just could not live without?
I mean, I'm in my YouTube dashboard all day, every day. Yeah. That I can't live without it.
From a business perspective, again, 3 to 8-year-olds, but also the mom demographic, also the grandparent demographic, what social platforms kind of in order, if you don't mind, seem to be working the best right now? I'm sure it starts with YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube for kids. Definitely Instagram for moms when we're just trying to kind of launch something. Driving more purchase. Facebook is super efficient, works great. Then I would say, behind that, probably like a TikTok, Pop Jam, which is like kids only platform, kind of expensive to participate in, but we do put content there for kids. And I think you'll see that one growing in the next couple of years. It's safe.
I was going to ask you too is, obviously a lot of kids download games on their iPad or their iPhone, and that's how they, when their parents are at dinner, they play their game on their iPad. You see that a lot in space. Is that a market, or is that something you guys have ever experimented with actually having, pop-ups or ads within games?
Yeah, we did that on Pop Jam last year. We made some games. They're, the advertising is not great there. Yeah. It's so small, especially when you're kind of trying to show a toy. But yeah, it's definitely a great place to reach kids. You can do a lot of, programmatic spends in that area. So yeah, it's definitely places that we consider.
In our industry, FOMO is a major thing since everybody's moved so fast. What's the one thing you recommend marketers like ourselves would read on a daily basis to kind of keep your thumb on the pulse?
I read LinkedIn all day, every day. That's it. Yeah. I don't read one specific thing. I kind of let the news come to me. I have a lot of followers on LinkedIn, and I just scroll every day. And I'm, that's how I stay in tune what's going on. I'm in the very young space right now, but I don't want to lose, experience that I have in the market so fast from, all the other wide variety of advertising and media. So I'm constantly looking at what's coming, what people are talking about. I think that if you're not on LinkedIn all day, every day as a marketer, then I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, LinkedIn and TikTok right now are the two most like organic platforms. Like I shared a random story about a client on there and it got 100,000 views. And it's like, that's crazy how it can just take off too with the right content. I wanted to ask you too, being in the toy slash, I guess gift category as well, how much of your resources and budget is focused on Q4 and that holiday season? I mean, I know with a lot of products, it's usually a big chunk of it, but how much is that your do or die on a yearly basis, the holiday season?
It's everything. Yeah. It's everything. I would say it's about 70% of our focus for the year. Seasonality is just such a there's nothing that compares to it. You have Easter coming up, which is you get a great bump, but it's like a blip compared to what happens in the holiday season. Especially this year, I think is going to be a really, really, really tough year for retail. Yep. I think you're going to see foot traffic declining even more with the coronavirus. I think people are not going to be shopping in stores, and it's only going to get worse. And I think people like Amazon have to be doing just backflips, and retailers that have their .com set up omnichannel and for success. So it's going to be a tough year, and that holiday season is very important for us. It's the most important time.
As someone that tries to be an optimist and glass half full, you look at the coronavirus stuff that we've all been dealing with. I mean, at least this isn't happening in Q4. That would be a major, major problem, especially if, China factories and things like that were shutting down. So it looks like they've figured a lot of that out, and they're starting to reopen here in Q1, which is hopefully all situated by the time Skyrocket digs their feet in for your marketing campaign.
Yes. I think we'll be fine. I mean, people are still going to have to buy gifts. They might just change the way that they're buying. Right. And actually, I think it could work to our advantage because I think more people are going to be online. Mm-hmm. And more people are going to be doing that online research instead of going into stores, perhaps, and doing research. So it could really work into our advantage if we've got our strategy honed in the right place.
I'm so excited that you came on the program because literally every person I talk to in our space wants to hit a younger demographic, whether that's Gen Z, whether, like you said, it's even younger, because they understand that if their current demo is at 50 years old, they have to find a way to get younger. Being at where you're at right now for the last year or so, what would be your advice to all marketers that are trying to, make their audience younger than it currently is?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about ad blindness so much with, people in the older demographic. Like, imagine what ad blindness is for kids who grow up with it. I mean, I have a 2-year-old and he knows how to swipe up away my text message and skip a video. He's 2. He's not even 2. Yeah, he's almost 2. Nuts. Yeah. So it's nuts. And I think that kids and we talked about for the last however many 8-10 years, like content is king and create content and don't create ads. But you see so many people still creating ads, and we do it too. We've done it too. We're trying to shift out of it. I think that it's so important to create entertainment that kids are interested in and not an ad. Kids, it's not that they don't want to see it. They just don't see it. They skip it. They don't pay attention. They're on multi-screen. They're not, if they're on YouTube and an ad rolls on and they have to watch it, they're doing something else. They have a 2-second attention span. So I think it's just even worse now. Younger kids are. I mean, Gen Z grew up with technology, but the next generation is, it's even more highly prolific in their lives. So I think it's just trying to reach that audience with things that aren't ad-like.
Yeah, I feel like, and you and I too, grew up in the DVR era too, where, you skip commercials and you fast forward or you at least, use the restroom during the commercial break and you don't pay attention to the ads. So it is funny, I think, as marketers, you understand what your habits are, but then you go against that when you're selling your product. Right. And I've seen some really cool things with live sports. They have the picture-in-picture where they stay on the live sport, but they do the advertising next to it. I really think with product placement and just different ways to be genuine to the community. I totally agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, I think it's we don't talk about time shifting a lot in the kid space in TV. And kids are time shifting. My the remote and says, remote, fast forward.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
he's 2. He knows how to do that already because he sees mom and dad do it. So, I just think that you got to get creative about how you integrate your product into other messaging, because I think that's the future.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I've seen it when we put the influencer marketing up, the kids love it and it works. We see a bump in sales like they used to see with TV. It works. We've turned on other things, nothing happens. So to me, that's right now, it's kind of the easiest way to create content. It's pretty turnkey. I always look at the influencer marketing as media deals versus just, giving influencers money. Yep. And that's kind of the easiest thing we've been able to do.
That's such a good point. I think all of us have been reprogrammed to not like ads or skip or have ad blockers on our desktop. But to your point, the 2-year-old that's growing up in this new age, I mean, they're 10 times more cognizant of that stuff and more likely to skip and not be a part of that madness. So that's some awesome stuff. Well, once again, Lindsey, thank you so much for joining me, Vice President of Marketing at Skyrocket. I hope to see you soon, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lindsey.
It was fun.
All right.
Thanks. Take care.
All right, there she was, Lindsey Scheftic. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Vice President of Marketing at Skyrocket. I think, we got a lot of good knowledge dropped there during this show, but we really hit on something there towards the end, Will, when she talked about, hitting that younger demo and what people should do in order to do that. So I think some really good stuff from Lindsey. I'm not sure if you had any takeaways, but I had quite a few.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that she also said as much as she has to focus on the younger demo, she still makes time to go on LinkedIn and see what's going on globally, because she has to keep her tools sharp as a marketer.
Yeah, and also, we didn't talk really in depth, but recording this kind of during the coronavirus madness, of course, how that affects someone like in her position when, your manufacturing's in China and then now your marketing dollars are kind of pushing that, and maybe shipping gets delayed, and that, wrenches like that get thrown into companies all the time, and how you really are able to move and groove from that. So, but overall, really exciting stuff. I think what they're doing, and I think it's interesting, right? They're really pulling money away from TV and they're going more digital. It's the first time on this podcast we talked about YouTube Kids and how important influencers are for that younger demo, because you want that 8-year-old to say, "Daddy, Mommy, buy me this," and where are they? But again, these social networks can't really tell you exactly where they are. So kind of doing some market research and A/B testing, but overall some fascinating stuff from Lindsey. Really appreciate it. This has been another edition. I want to thank David Furker. I want to thank Will. Will, am I missing anything? Do I need to say anything to the fine folks before we sign off here?
No, I think we did some shout outs, covered the pod, episode 52, and we're coming strong.
We're rolling. So make sure to check us out on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. If you like the program, we appreciate the 5 stars. That makes us feel good. That's the way Will gets impact. You feel impactful when you get more 5 stars? Is that correct?
Sure.
All right. Last 2 things. Lakers beating the Bucks and the Clippers. What a weekend for us Laker fans. Feeling really good about that. And also, San Diego State losing in the Mountain West Championship. We can't lose anymore. Get the losing out of your DNA, and now we go into March Madness. We go into probably a number 2 seed in the West, and I'm all good. I'd rather play in the West. I don't want to be a number 1 seed back East where you have no home court advantage. I want to go down the Staples Center, watch my boys play. It's going to be big, but again, no more losing. That's it. Get the losing out of your.
This has got to be the strongest you felt about both of your basketball teams, maybe ever in the same season.
I mean, I'm feeling good. This is 2020, maybe one of the best years ever when it comes to David Brickley's fandom of both the Lakers and San Diego State University. All right. Totally random. That doesn't really apply to most of you on listening, but we're moving on. Business Social Podcast, yet another edition. My name's David Brickley, powered by the GOAT, STN Digital.